Good morning, Sue. It's so lovely to have you here at Kitterklets. I've been looking forward to speaking to you. I've heard only good things about you. I've read only good things about you. And it sounds like you are a fantastic mother and a fantastic friend and also a fantastic author. So welcome at Kitterklets.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to your platform.
Yeah, so all my interviews starts with an icebreaker. So my icebreaker question to you is, I've noticed you like red wine. Which red wine is your favorite, and do you cook with wine?
There's one recipe that I do. I think it's a rosemary chicken that calls for red wine. Yeah, and another oxtail recipe. So sometimes I do cook with red wine, but now that I have a child, I can't. So I've had to stop that.
Oh,
but I used to be before. Yeah.
The joys of having a child.
I love so many brands. I think there's one by Ernie Els that I like. I've forgotten what the called. Yeah, it's a Cab Sav, I think. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure if I see you again that we'll have a glass of red wine together.
Yes, definitely. I never say no to red wine.
So I Googled you a little bit, and your Nguni name, and I have to be honest with you, I had to go to Google and tell me, how do I say Ungeni? Okay. So I believe your Ungeni name means beautiful day. So, and did your parents tell you, and how did they come about this name, and how do you pronounce your Ungeni name?
Nguni name, yeah, Sugoluhle. So my dad was the one who named me.
Okay.
So I guess my older brother was, a boy. So I was when they had me, I was a girl. So I think he probably had been dying for a girl. I don't know. So that's how my name came about. And it was a contentious name because, my parents are Catholic. And I remember my dad was telling me the priest said, no, she needs to have an English name. And my dad was adamant that, no, this is the name I want for her. So that's how Sugoluhle came into being.
And can you just say it again, but slowly, please?
Sugoluhle. It's funny.
Yesterday
I was my doctor I went to see this doctor for the first time, Dr. Dave.
Okay.
And we spent like 5 minutes because he was determined to get it right. It was like Sugoluhle.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'll try it afterwards and then I'll get back to you about that, okay? But it's a beautiful meeting, beautiful day. I mean, what a lovely, lovely name. So well done to your father. I see that you were 13 years old. Yeah. So
Sorry?
I see that you were only 13 years old when you started writing. So your first book were Crazy Over You. Please tell me about that. I love your titles.
Okay, so it was like a teenage, young adult high school romance kind of story.
Yeah.
About a boy and a girl, who fall in love. It starts over with, it starts with a crush. Like your typical high school romance.
Yes. And the giggles.
Yes, and that innocent love, and it was that warm, fuzzy kind of love. So that's what that book was about.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. But 13, yes, I think what a beautiful talent. I mean, I can just write, okay, so, but you're well done. It's so amazing. 13 years old. That's quite young.
Yeah, I think I've always had the inclination to write because even before then, when I was like 9, 10, I was already cutting pictures out of magazines, writing stories around them. So already, those seeds were germinating, that creativity was already there. And before I could even write, I was acting out those stories, even in my playtime. So I used to act out stories. So I think when I was able to write and I had the words, it just developed from there.
Yeah, because I must be honest with you, I was a little bit intimidated to interview you because my English vocab is not at all as good as yours, okay? So I'm giving you my best English here with my beautiful Afrikaans accent.
No, but you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. English is not our first language for both of us. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I also want to ask you, I notice you are a single parent. What obstacles do you go through as a single parent? And do you have any advice for single parents out there?
You know, single parenting is not easy. I remember a few years ago, this other friend of mine, Monica, said to me, you know, I'm thinking of going at it alone, you know, just having a child on my own. And I was like, no, don't do it, you
Don't
know.
do it.
Yeah, like, don't do it. A lot of people don't know how it's very demanding, not just, you know, financially, but emotionally as well, because yeah, it's draining on you because everything is on you. And so it's taxing, you know, mentally as well. So I always say it's not easy. And I applaud all single parents who are out there holding it together because it isn't easy.
Okay.
And, you know, my advice and the advice that has been given to me as well is just to take things one day at a time, you know. You know, don't, if you get, some days are better than others, but it's just getting through the day, you know. And some days you're a great mom, sometimes you suck at it, but you know, you learn every day. And you know, that's how I approach it.
Okay. You know what? I like that whole day by day thing because I try to live myself like that, and it's actually something we
Mhm.
talk about at Yellow for Survivors as well. Is now is in any form of trauma or just daily life, try to take
Mm.
it day by day because you know what? I
Today, yeah,
think as humans, we worry so much about tomorrow and the day after and the day after
exactly,
that we forget to live. And if there's one
exactly.
thing this whole COVID thing has hopefully shown to all of us is that yes, it's good to have a plan, but live
Hmm.
today. Don't
Yeah,
worry about yesterday. It's gone. Tomorrow
it's
is not
gone. Yeah,
promised. So I really
exactly.
love that, day by day. That's all we can do on the end of the day.
Yes, and yeah, and that's all you're sure of because you know you're here today. And living in the moment is very difficult for a lot of us, you
Mm.
know, because we, you know, we've forgotten how it is just to live, you know. And I blame a lot of it on social media as well, that you know, we've forgotten how to live. And you're right when you say COVID is just has come to remind us what's really important, what we should really prioritize in our lives. So it has been a huge reality check for a lot of us.
Yes, absolutely. And just to do things together again. So being a
Exactly.
single parent, I mean, if there is there one thing that you really focus on to teach your little boy, and I'm specifically saying boy, because I mean, we're a gender-based violence company, okay, or a non-profit company, and we talk about gender-based violence a lot. But so is there a few things that you specifically focus on to teach your child, for when he's older and him as a boy to become a man? Is there something you can share with me about that?
Okay, so I've always said that, you know, I'm not equipped, okay, to model my son into becoming a man. You know, I grew up in a home where I had a mom and dad, and I was very cognizant of the roles that they played, okay? As, you know, my mother mothered and my father fathered. But they were both active in those roles. And I have two brothers. And I can see, you know, my dad did a great job in the way he raised them because they are also now married and raising their own, you know, children and their husbands, you know, to their partners. And they're very present and active. And so for me, you know, that's a testament of how my dad, you know, raised them. And so I think we often underestimate the role of a father in a child's life, right? So whilst my son's father is very absent in his life, you know, I try and instill, you know, manners in him. Like I teach him to respect women, you know, girls around, you know, that I teach him that women are fragile. They must be treated with respect. And I'm trying to, you know, inculcate, you know, that courteous, you know, and, you know, yeah, and a generous sort of, you know, those kind of characteristics in him. I'm trying to nurture that side of him, you know, so that when he grows up, that's how he will treat the women in his life. And I'm happy to say he's a well-mannered and respectful boy. And I'm not
Oh,
just saying this, you know, because he's my son. But I mean, oftentimes, you know, people will babysit him. You know, being a single parent, you always have to call on other people to babysit him, right?
yeah.
You need that help, the extend the support system. And they will always say, bring him anytime. He's such a well-behaved child. You know, they love to take him on, you know. And so I'm very mindful of that, you know, because I'm very mindful of the kind of, you know, characteristics that I want in a man, and I would like to inculcate that in him as well, so that someday he is that kind of man that we want to see in society.
Well, he sounds like a real gentleman. If you don't mind me asking, the fact that his father is not involved in his life, is it his father's choice?
Yes. I always say, like, I've never ever, barred him from having access to his son. He just chooses not to. He chooses not to be present. And you can't force someone to be what they don't want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, as we speak, he hasn't seen his son this whole year. I mean, we into August, but he has access to him, but he just chooses not to. So I don't want to, make excuses for people, but it is what it is. And we just have to work with what we have, and such is life, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a pity though. But like you say, you respect it in some kind of way because he's an adult. He will have to live with his decisions one day. And it sounds to me like your son is the kind of person who's going to really do well in life. And then I find with a lot of people I talk to, and I've seen this, then the father wants to be a part of that life. And then they want to take credit for how the boy is turning out. But that's also, that's something that, I mean, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know how his life will turn out. But I've seen this happening so many times.
No, it does. It happens a lot. We see it. We see the story play out. And I think, I know a lot of moms feel resentful because, you carry the weight, with these children. You try to make ends meet only for someone else to show up when the race is finished to try and take credit. So
and show off them.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And the thing is with children, what I've seen is children will always, be loyal to those absent fathers. It's always like the parent who stayed is always seen as the bad one. The one who left is the one who's credited. It's a kind, the psyche of it. They always yearn for the parent that is not there. And you just, I don't know, you just have to accept it, I guess. I never badmouth my ex or say anything bad. I mean, I always say it's, my son will grow up to know what kind of person he is, and I shouldn't influence that view. And yeah, I leave it at that,
Yeah, it's good because there's nothing more frustrating for me and ugly when mom or dad talks bad about the other parent, because the one thing parents don't realize, your child's going to grow up, then he's going to actually make his own decision anyway.
Exactly.
And you're right if you're saying the child will yearn for the absent parent, but I want to reassure you something today because I'm actually in the same position with my own parents, okay? Yes, you yearn for that parent, but you rather want to be like the parent who were there the whole time. You want to be that kind of parent. So it's a compliment to you, really.
Thank you.
So don't worry about that. The day will come when your boy will tell you, Mommy, I can't wait to be a parent like you. So don't worry about
it. It's actually funny because he likes to play these games. I've forgotten this app that he plays on. And he's got like 3 kids. And so I'm like, wow, you've got a big family. And he says, yes. And I'm like, and where's the mom? He says, no, I'm a single dad, that I've got my 3 kids. And on the app, they do all sorts of things. So he'll be like, I'm trying to put my kids to bed. Please wait. But he really wants to be a dad, which is quite interesting for me. Yeah.
Because I think, especially for him being a boy, he sees what it does to you. Children are very intelligent. They're very, very intelligent. And I'm sure he really loves you a lot, and he sees what you're offering him and what you're doing for him, So he already kind of thinks that it's okay to be a single parent because you're doing such a fantastic job. He's got some 3 kids,
Yeah, I suppose. I was laughing at the 3 kids. I was like, why 3
Very
kids?
funny, I must say. And tell me, and does his kids have names?
They do, but I've forgotten them. But they do. And
that is so funny.
Yeah, I was just like, why 3 kids? And he'll be telling me, we run out of food and the kids are so demanding.
Oh, I hope that he's giving them a hiding that when they're naughty.
I doubt it. No, he doesn't like anything to do with hiding, so I doubt it.
Oh, that is so cute, actually. I really like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of an app like that. So,
I've forgotten it, but I remember writing it down because I thought it was so funny. And then I asked other people if they'd played it before.
yeah.
Yeah, they said some were familiar with it. So I was like, just fun. Yeah, because he got so engrossed with it. Like one weekend, he was like,
Wow.
"Oh, I need to bath my kids," you know.
That is very, very funny.
Yeah.
I must say, I mean, that this bye-bye talks for me. So, the other thing I also want to ask you, because I've always been fascinated with authors, now. I've always wondered, how do they get to these characters? Where do they meet these people? Is it in your mind? Is it your creative will? And then I also read you said something about you're never alone because you've got all these characters who keeps you company. So how do you decide on your characters?
So it's like with me, it always starts with the story. I'm like, what is the story that I want to tell, right? So I always like think about that and sort of, answer that question first. And then once I've got that, I say, who's going to tell that story? Who am I going to use to tell that story? And that's when the characters come up. And then I start to think of them like, who's the best person to tell the story? What do they look like? And it's literally birthing people. And I think of what they would look like. What do they like? What don't they like? And I literally come up with what I call a character Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, and I write down things about them, and I think the more believable the character is, the more to life it comes on the page, and yeah, and that's how it starts. And sometimes the characters, once you start writing the book, they take a life of their own, and you need to allow them to, because as they flesh out, like and they become something else at times. And some characters that I don't think were going to be big become big.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So they often, that's what I'm saying, some characters do take a life of their own. And so while writing, the process of writing is very lonely because you're alone most of the time, but you're not alone because these characters live in your head. So it's kind of like
it's like free.
And I think it's like almost like their voices start to exist in your mind. And like, even if when you just get that urge, right, they'll be like, let's continue. It's like they're speaking to you now. And as you're right, it's madness, but writers will understand what I mean. But it just, and I always say, when I'm telling people, they probably think I'm going cuckoo, right? But they do start to live in your head, and like and demand to be heard, and
Yeah, but it makes sense. It makes sense because, and you say, a little bit cuckoo, whatever, but creative people are normally a little bit cuckoo, okay? And I love that about creative people because you're never boring, So I love creative people, and exactly what you're saying. I understand why writers, if you always watch movies, the writer's on its own, you always have to be in a little room or something, or if you even look at South African authors like Dion Opperman that I met and everything, he lives here in the Karoo, all by a little place. So I think you don't need friends actually, because you've got all these characters and they become your friends because, and like I said, they evolve in the story. And that's what makes a good author because you allow yourself to just imagine and play. And I love it. I think it's actually such an honor. Yes, I think it can be lonely, but it's a different kind of loneliness to be an author. Yeah. It's not like you feel sorry for yourself.
No, it's not that kind of lonely. It's just that I'm just saying you're alone.
Yes.
And you need to be alone. So it's that isolation that I'm really talking about. But you're not really lonely in the sense that because those characters keep you company. You create this world where you have control. You decide what happens in that world. Sometimes the characters also decide, but you exist in another realm, which is nice. I like that, And there's no COVID there when I'm writing my book. So
I think it must be so lonely though. Really, because I'm a bit of a loner myself. And I hear what you're saying. I'm not lonely, but I prefer my own company actually.
Yes,
because
exactly.
yeah. So I totally I get it.
Mm.
So your recent book, I love the title. I absolutely love the title. I can't wait to read it. When secrets become stories. What is this book about? And do you ever write about your own experiences?
So When Secrets Becomes, Stories is a collection of nonfiction essays on gender-based violence, right?
Okay.
So they're real life accounts by 26 women, okay, who've contributed these
South African women.
Well, not just South African. I think we've got two other, non-South African women who've also contributed, but everyone's South African based, and they're just writing the experience of gender-based violence. And it's not just, in the intimate space, but also in the workspace. So it covers a wide spectrum, and it also looks at the different types of gender-based violence, emotional, financial, sexual,
spiritual.
Yeah. So you get to see that it's, there's a wide spectrum of it, and that all of them are equally important. That we should actually stop ranking abuse and saying, physical abuse is more severe because, you see the scars, but that's not really true, So, and the problem with when people start to do that, they discount other forms of abuse, like emotional abuse. But even though the scars are internal and maybe far reaching and deeper and longer lasting, it may take years to heal. So it's important that we give the same weight to every type of abuse that's out there. And it's also to show that, sometimes they can all occur together. It's not just like you can experience one. Some come, you can experience all types of abuse in one situation. So it's just also to give testimonies, real life testimonies to people, so that someone reading it out there who may be going through the same thing doesn't feel like they're alone. They don't feel like they're an anomaly, because I felt that way for a long time. I was sexually abused. Yeah. So as a child, so for a long time, I also thought, I was an anomaly, and I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anyone because, I was afraid of what people would think of me. There was that fear. And I think because it happened when I was young, I also didn't have, the words to articulate it. It's only when I read about it in a book, I realized that, oh, damn, this is what really happened. Yeah. And it wasn't supposed to happen. And I was filled with shame. Like, why did I, you take the blame, as a victim. You think you're the one who did wrong, because I was like, how did I allow this to happen to me? And now I've kept the secret, I was filled with shame. So, and I think for a lot of victims, we internalize the shame, and that becomes very problematic. So because, I read about what happened to me in a book, I saw the power of, the written word, because later on, I think when I was in my 30s, I read another book where there was a memoir by Rami Chwene, and she also spoke about her, her abuse. As a child, she was sexually molested, and I was thinking, oh wow, this is someone I know, I've seen, and she's writing about it. She's actually telling, her story, and I felt empowered by that. I remember reaching out to her and saying to her, I actually went through the same thing, and for me, that was actually the beginning of me, coming to terms with what had happened, and now it just gave me courage to speak about it. And I think that's what we need, more of those instances where, we give each other courage, because, shame thrives in silence, but, once it's exposed, you kill it, you kill the hold it has over you. And that's when the healing begins. Once it's out there, you can heal. And I think that's so important. And so this book is about telling our stories to empower women, you know, to take ownership, take back your voice, you know, take back your power. So that's what the anthology is all about.
Sure, I love that. I really have to read it because you're so 100% right now. We have to talk about this. Yes. Nobody must stop us. We have to talk about it. And, you know, I am where I'm sitting right now, okay? I read the article yesterday and I'm livid, okay, because of people's reactions about, but why are you only talking about it now? You know, what
they don't understand.
Is this? What kind of question is this? And exactly what you just said, you know, when you read it and you read about this woman who had the courage to start talking, then only you realize, like, but this is what happened to me. This was actually wrong. This is why I'm going to start talking about it. And the healing then starts. So who gives somebody else the right to say, but why are you doing it now? You know? So I'm so fed up with that question.
Exactly.
Me and Olivia is actually on a whole mission to really do a drive to educate people about this. Because you know what? Yeah, it's a very sensitive topic right now for me because I'm very fed up. I am gatvol, like we say in Afrikaans, you weet? And I'm sure you know that. Everybody
understand
in this country. Because people must stop this. But I'm very proud of you now. I'm very, very proud of you. Especially because it happened so young. And you're so 100% right about the ranking as well. It doesn't deserve a ranking. Yours is not worse than mine, and mine is worse than yours. Pain is pain. Trauma is trauma. Abuse is abuse. Everybody handles it differently. And one person's healing process is totally different from another person's healing process. Because there's a lot of things that matters in a situation like that. The way you were brought up, your religion maybe, your work situation, being a parent, being married, being maybe a mother. You don't want to, you know, there's so many reasons why you at the time maybe decide, you know what, I think I'm not ready. And then that one day you decide, now it's time. So these 26 women in your book, okay, I would love to meet them and I would love to do a dedication walk for them. I would love to do that because that's what I do. I walk for other survivors. So that's a thing I would like to do, okay? I'm somehow, you know, I get worked up.
No, I understand it's a very emotional subject. And people's judgment doesn't help.
Yeah.
Because you always, it's like you always have to justify yourself. It's like you're always on trial. Always.
Because
and it shouldn't be like this. Yes, you know. And that's what they don't understand because they haven't had to live with it, question it. And like you say, people react differently. Some people become hypersexualized as a result of abuse, right? And some people become asexual. So nobody's experience of abuse is going to ever be the same. And so we can't say, you know, go around saying this is the standard. When it happens, you need to report in 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. You know, it doesn't, you know. Some people only speak about it in 24 years. You know, some will never speak about it. You know, so I really think people should learn to appreciate that.
Yeah, so tell me, and where can people find this book? Is it online or is it in the stores available?
So this is the cover that I have on the book. Okay, it's published by Jonathan Ball.
Okay.
So it's available in most bookstores, right? Bargain Books, CNA, Exclusive Books, all your big chain store books will have it. And then you'll also find it in your smaller independent bookstores. You'll get it online, Take a Lot, Loot, and the ebook is available on Kobo. So it's widely available. You know, you should be able to find it without a problem.
Okay. So just a last question. Do you write love letters?
I used to. When I was younger. I used to. When writing was still in vogue and fashionable. But it died. I mean, I have a collection of all the letters I've written since I was a young girl.
Oh, wow. We can open a museum for you.
Yeah, and I've kept all of them because I always said, you know, one day I might write my own memoir and I'll go back to them. It'll be a fantastic resource.
Yes.
Yeah. So there were love letters in there. And it's always funny when I go back and read them and the crushes I had. But it's sweet. It reminds me of that innocence, you know.
It's very sweet. I really love it. Yeah. I'm a romantic, so I think it's very, very romantic and it's very sweet. But I mean, I
Yeah.
must tell you, it was an absolute honor for me to talk to you because you feel like I feel like I'm talking to a big celebrity of South Africa, you know.
Not even. Not at
No,
all.
This was an honor for me to talk to you. Really, I really enjoyed
No,
talking
it was a pleasure.
Yeah,
It was a pleasure.
it
Leilani.
was really fun to talk to you, and well done on being a single parent. It seems like you are rocking it, and I know, like you said, it's not easy, but I wish you all the best with it. And
thank you.
please stay in touch with Julle for Survivors.
I will do that definitely, and maybe we'll do some walk together.
Yes,
things
please, and
get
then have
that-
some
yeah,
wine
I love
after
to
it.
Yes, I'd love to walk.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this meeting. Well, okay.
It's a pleasure. Take care.